Okay, hopefully people can see my screen, can they?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. I've just seen the you're seeing the presentation screen, I hope. Sorry, it did have a green line around it, but it's disappeared. Are you seeing a slide that says TFA OpenCI?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, well, TFA project. Yeah. All right, brilliant. All right, let me start. So I held one of these a few weeks back, and I've updated the slides that I used then, so they look somewhat similar to what people saw previously. And what I'm going to do is follow on from the email I sent out, I think right at the end of March, saying that the OpenCI is open for use in TFA. Just run through some information on the status of where we're at and where we hope to be going. Probably another quick demo of the slides. Sorry, of the web pages, the CI pages, so that people can be familiar with those pages, and also Gerrit, the labels to use. And I'll also I did share with everybody, I think yesterday, the documentation that we that the Linaro team have put together for us. That's still work in progress, but that might give you some more information later on. And I guess I ought to start. So thank you for the various Linaro folks who've joined us. I think we got Leonardo, Arthur, I think Fafi is joining us, I think, and Don are all here from the Linaro team, who have greatly helped us put together the infrastructure that sort of backs all of the OpenCI, not only for TFA, but also for TFM, which is also up and running live. And there's also other OpenCI projects that will make use of all this infrastructure in the coming weeks and months, I guess. But this particular meeting is really to talk about, or to just go run through some of the TFA aspects of it, and just refamiliarize people that now things are available, where things are, and to take any Q&A, which is one of the reasons I got the Linaro guys online to help with that. So let me move forward. So this was a slide that I shared last time, and I haven't changed it. The reason we're doing this work is because of the project originally, was an ARM project, and everything was being run within ARM. And now that we, a couple of years back now, migrated to the trustedfirmware.org, we have wanted for a long while to transition some of the support facilities like the CI across to sort of more open servers. Mainly because the CI was behind the ARM firewall. Only ARM people could start it off, and could also only view the results, and we had to cut and paste into the Gerrit reviews and things like that to try to communicate any CI failures. So by having an open CI that you guys, the project contributors, can make use of directly, that makes life a lot easier, I would hope, for everyone to be able to kick off the CI, and also be able to view the results without necessarily relying on other people to act as intermediaries. The goal, the team is here to support you guys, but hopefully over time you'll get familiar with it and make good use of it. Yeah, I've covered that. So what we've done with the help of Linaro and being funded by trustedfirmware.org and the membership fees, have established a CI that was based on the ARM CI that we have internally, although it's been redesigned for more sort of secure and public use, as opposed to the CI that we had internally in ARM, which of course was primarily for internal use only. And the CI results, as I've said previously, are now available directly to the project community. And the big hope is that the membership can help extend this, because all the CI scripts and the Jenkins jobs and the tests, everything now is in open source repositories. So we look forward to joining with you in the contributions that you do with the main TFA, and some of you have done on the TFA tests repositories, but also in the CI repositories. So what is the current capability status? So previously, I think this is a similar slide that I had previously, is that we have a daily run that runs on the integration branch. If people aren't familiar, we have two branches in TFA, an integration branch and a master branch. The master is the one that people should make use to for downloading the project and making use of it. But we have an integration branch to help with the running of the CI and the patch reviews, and getting things into a state that we're happy for them to be integrated into the master branch. So every night in the OpenCI, there's a daily run, and that's available on the CI trustedfirmware.org, which I'll show after the slides. So you can see the status of the various tests that have been run. This helps ensure that the patches that have been integrated, and even though they were checked or hopefully checked as part of the Gerrit review, that they're in a state that we can update the master. And also there's some so you and the community don't need to do anything about that, apart from when you want to go and have a look at the daily results. But there are some ways that you, the community, can manually set off CI runs, and that's through Gerrit. And there's two levels of tests. There's L1 and L2. L1 is a smaller set, and L2 includes all the tests in L1 plus some additional tests. And the daily runs is even more tests that aren't run as part of the Gerrit reviews. And that is now driven by the existing allow CI label. So you can get level 1 with adding a +1 label, and level 2 +2, which hopefully makes some sense. The OpenCI infrastructure has now been documented, and I shared an email. Sorry if I filled up anybody's mailboxes by sending out the actual file. But it's a draft version of the user guide. I understand that's going to be made available online at some point in the near future, and that I'll probably quickly flick through it later in the presentation, but that's got a lot of information that probably people who want to make more heavily use or extend the CI will probably need to or want to read about. The CI relies on Jenkins and the Lava infrastructure to manage the various boards that we have, physical boards, and also the FVPs, the fast models that the majority of the testing that's done on ARM platforms and the trustedfirmware.a is tested on. There is also the ability to have various static analysis testing. Some are various scripts that are in the CI. Others are making use of the open source service that Synopsys offers for Coverity. One thing to say about Coverity is that because we're making use of their public open source support, we only have a limited number of runs, so we can't run that on the Gerrit patches, because I think we only have about 14. It all depends on how the number of lines of code in your project, but I think we got about 14 runs we can do a week, and I think we use them on a sort of daily basis as part of the daily test runs. So you may see information about failures after your patches have been submitted, but hopefully that's better than not seeing them at all. As I said, makes heavily use of FVP models, and there's some ARM Juno boards also available. The FVP models, they're generally made public through arm.com. We do have some other FVPs that haven't been made public yet, but hopefully eventually they will be made public and we can incorporate them into the OpenCI. We also do make use of the TFA tests repository, and the tests run there, and do various boot tests. So at this stage, we try to, as part of the CI, to make sure all the platform code that's upstreamed is built on a daily basis to ensure that no build failures creep in. But of course, we don't have any ability yet to sort of do runtime testing on platform boards. Platform boards. So I mean, that's something you as partners might be able to make use of. That does come because none of this is free. So to enable that, you will have to sort of join trustedfirmware.org to contribute to with membership fees, because it's through the membership fees that a lot of this CI work is done. And I think that's a requirement that if you want your platform upstream, that you should be a member of trustedfirmware.org. I'm sure Don can talk about that later if necessary. There's a staging CI available as well as the one for production, so that helps the support of changes to the CI, new tests and things like that can be tested in this staging area and then rolled out into the production when ready. So as my email from 2 or 3 weeks back, it's up, it's live, it's available for partner membership to use. We should, and if there's any problems, please let us know. Be allowable. Anybody who's in the maintainers file, either as a code owner or a maintainer, should be able to run, set off the Gerrit allow CI, and also rerun anything directly from Jenkins if you need to rerun a test. The main reason for making sure that there's a known list of people in there. We don't want people from outside abusing the system or doing a denial of service attack on the system. But if you're a real contributor to the project, I don't think there's any problem with us making sure that any additional people are added to the permissions list. Just allows us a protection mechanism if needed. If somebody it joins and starts misusing the system, we have some ways of protecting it. So the nightly run is quite important, because what we want is the nightly run on the integration branch to run clean, because then that allows us to know that we can merge any of the changes in integration into the master branch. If we got failures there, that we're held up. So there's 2 levels. It's the patch review level, and then making sure that the nightly continues to run cleanly on the integration branch, and then the master branch can be updated. Evolution. So although we've upstreamed and made available the OpenCI, there's future work. There's lots of work where we can make improvements and extend this. So part of documenting or making available the documentation is to allow you, the community, to know a bit more about how the CI is set up, so that you can decide if you want to contribute and change to help us run this project very much like the rest of TFA as an open source project. So very much interested, because many hands make light work on some of these activities, and although we try, the main maintainers traditionally ARM have sort of tried to cover a lot of areas, we can't cover everything. There's a proposal that we put together an open CI mailing list to allow more contribution discussions, so we don't necessarily have to talk about this in the TFA mailing list. Have a more general OpenCI one, but that's a proposal. So hopefully that may be coming out soon. For now, if it's TFA related things, use the TFA mailing list. So also available is the OpenCI. It's actually parallel, and it's being run with some separate Gerrit flags, and it's primarily there while the OpenCI is coming together, being stabilized. And there's also some tests in there, unfortunately, that we haven't been able to open source yet. However, what we want to do is make sure that the project and the way the process works is all based on the OpenCI. So if anything if anybody on the ARM side kicks off the OpenCI and we find something, we'll contribute that as a comment. Not necessarily blocking any integrations, but you may well want to take any comments, like any comment really on any patch, into account. Eventually, once the OpenCI comes to everything that was in the OpenCI, we can decommission that. But it's there to sort of help maintain the quality levels that we've had previously, because we don't want to see anything drop just because we're not testing it at this time. So there's a number of future items. There's more than this list, but these are some of the things. So I know there's discussions about partner platform additions into the Lava Farm to be made use of. Again, remember what I said, that to do that you need to be members of trustedfirmware.org. But maybe that's an incentive for any contributors, companies who aren't members to do that. But I also hinted at some missing software models because they're not public from ARM yet. They're running the OpenCI, but it's ongoing to enable them or get them upstream once they're available, enable the tests in the OpenCI. And there's also some other tests that are not quite working as we would like at this time. So we've disabled them, but we hope to enable them as and when we resolve any of the issues that we're encountering. I think there's a number of items for TFA on the plan backlog. There's a Windows Server build, so everything today is Linux build. We've got a code coverage solution that I think we've had a tech forum for previously, how that works. That will allow us to see in the open, how much of the code base is tested by the CI and the various tests that we have available. And also there's some other sort of metrics that we currently run internally in ARM that might be useful for the open source, about build image size changes and things like that over time, or perhaps useful information. One thing we do run in the internal ARM CI is measure testing. We have looked into making this available in the OpenCI, but the biggest problem there is that there isn't a free measure test. It will cost quite a lot of money. So at the moment, the funds don't quite allow us to allow that to be provided as part of the OpenCI. Unless any of you guys know of a way of doing measure testing that that doesn't cost too much, so that can be part of covered by the various membership fees. So I think that was really all I've got on the slides. In the slides, I've got some pointers. Happy to take any questions on the slides. Otherwise, I'll fire up a browser and we can have a quick look at the various pages.
Hey, Joanna, Varun Wadekar from NVIDIA. So one question, I just wanted to understand the motivation for keeping this service only available to the tf.org members. I know we've discussed this in the past, but I'm still trying to understand the motivation. Is it driven by some limitations on your side, or? Well,
there's two things. The service isn't, the service is open to everyone. It's whether, are you particularly talking about adding partner platforms into the CI?
Yeah, as a Tegra maintainer, if this OpenCI, of course, it gives me some use, but if I have to use it to the full extent without a platform being present in the Lava Farm, that would be, I won't get much use out of it because we don't have runtime tests running on the platform.
Right. I don't know, Don, if you want to take that one.
Yeah, sure. The bottom line is that it costs money to maintain the infrastructure. And so the paying members that are contributing dollars to help support and build up OpenCI have clear priority on that. And there's already a backlog of boards to add to it. So yeah. Does that answer your question or?
Yeah. So another question on that would be, have you also evaluated a system where the non-TF.org partners can host their own platforms? I don't know, when you say it costs money for the infrastructure, maybe that can be one solution to allow the non-TF.org partners to also be part of this CI.
Yeah, so the infrastructure is built off of a lot of open source components. You know, Lava is on the back end, which is where your boards live and requires, you know, presence in a lab and maintenance and everything. But it's surely possible for someone to duplicate, I would suppose, but that's a ton of duplicated work, or, you know, so there would be a benefit, I think, if, you know, from your perspective, if we were just to, it's a cost sharing model at this point for that whole infrastructure, and putting together a CI isn't trivial. Like OpenCI, it's a very complex system and advanced, uses a lot of cloud components. There's a lot of pieces in there, all the way from Garrett to Jenkins to the Lava backend, and all of that working together in a performant way. But again, it's all built out of open source components, and it could be possible. I think it would be maybe not financially feasible to go that way, but that would be a choice on your end.
Right. One other question on the Coverity side. So are there plans to maybe use more? I mean, right now you're using there's those 14 runs in a week. Are there plans to go to a higher version to get more use out of that tool, or that's not on the table?
So, I mean, I think there's always a desire, but all these things cost money. So the Synopsys scan service is a free service for open source projects. So that's what we're taking advantage of. So, you know, the more members, you know, to pump that again, that join trustedfirma.org, you know, gives a bigger pool of money that the board, or the, you know, which you would become a member of if you join at the appropriate levels, allows that money to be spent on these things. So that there is a sort of a budgeting concern, which probably blocks us, you know, taking on a more, I guess, a paid for service that we would need to do to do. I mean, as an individual company, ARM does that, but that's you know, for ARM use, and I'm sure various other partner companies have got their own licenses. But this, remember, is an open source, open governance project, and it needs to pay for things to support that in the open, and to do that it needs memberships.
Right, and I've been investigating along with some of the folks at ARM 4 or 5 different potential analysis tools that do provide MISRA testing, and some of them just don't have licensing that's open source friendly. You know, maybe it's per seat, or you know, don't support floating licenses, those kind of things. But there is, you know, several companies that provide that, and we've been investigating those and just haven't landed on one that really fits our needs from a cost perspective, licensing perspective, and everything. That's still ongoing though. If there's interest in where that's at, we could probably provide an update in a future meeting on each of those.
I believe CP Paycheck has a MISRA 2012 add-on. It's not complete, but I mean, for something that's free, it might suffice.
I'm sorry. You were making, I'm always open for other options. Like I said, I'm up to about 5, but if you could put what you were just saying in a chat, maybe in the chat with a link, I'll take a look.
Oh, yeah.
Any other questions on the slides or general things? Otherwise, I'll change screens. Not hearing anything. Okay, bear with me while I swap things around. Right.
And while you're doing that, thanks. It's Chris, right? So thanks for that. That is one I hadn't looked at yet. So.
I think that TFM project does CPP check. I can see they have a CPP check job, so that might help.
Okay, great.
Right, let me move that out of the way. Okay. So at the moment, there's no link to the CI from the various project pages, but I guess that might appear there eventually. But you can go directly to the CI. By seeing my, I'm sure you probably don't see that, but the CI trustedthermo.org, and you come to this page. So this is the production page of where the various jobs are. You know, as I said, there's a lot of jobs running for not only for TFA but TFM, and I think other projects will appear here at some point in the not too distant future. But there is a TFA tab, and you can see someone's evidently doing a build on the L1, which is the allow one from Gerrit at the moment. That's what the flashing means. So you can see the various jobs that are running. And we have daily running here as well. And daily actually kicks off 2 jobs. It's the main line and the Coverity. So if I'm just going to click through and talk. Please ask questions as I go. If or correct me for the Linaro guys if I go wrong. So you can click through on the different jobs. So this was one that it actually found overnight. We've got the Coverity run, which you can click through and investigate the build of the actual build that kicks off the Coverity. But a lot of tests are running mainline, and we've got a whole load of tests here that are run. The most latest one is available here, so we can click on that. And there you can see a whole load of different tests, some static tests, some build tests, including this is where all the platform builds will be occurring, and various tests that we do, whether it's TFTF or TF tests, as some of you are familiar with the TFA test repository, and various boot tests and various miscellaneous tests. So, but you can follow through on these by just clicking on some of these. So just click on one at random. So if you click on that one, you see a various page that's got how the tests are constructed, where we've got a test group, and it's normally made up of 3 things: a TFA build config, a TFTF or TF test build config, and also a run config involving, as I remember I said, a lot of tests today are based on different FVPs that are made public. We do have some Juno boards as well. And then you can click through all these ones are success, but I'll go through some of the failure ones in a second. But you can click through, and then you can get access to the build artifacts, and quite importantly, especially for failures, a lava log that has a lot of the details of how things have passed or failed. But if I go back a couple of levels and choose one that failed, so there's 3 areas that have failed overnight. couple of them are infrastructure issues with the Java farm at the moment. And one of them is actually a real problem that we introduced on the ARM side. We broke something. So, but just to click through one of the tests at the moment. So in here you can see some Juno tests that had failed, and of course this might be annoying if you're trying to get a patch ready to go back. But if they're an intermittent failure, I mean, let's all click through, I guess. Again, remember I said you got build artifacts. You can see the various logs and other artifacts. But I guess if we look at probably in this one. As always, with a lot of these tests, there's a lot of output, and you have to scroll through and find what the failure was. That's not in that one. It's probably easier to look at that one. And I think was this the one I was looking at earlier? There's probably a failure here somewhere. I was looking at a different one, and it did actually tell me that there was a failure that was due to an infrastructure issue. But the important thing is when you do get these failures, I think it was this one actually. Let's see if I can find it. So I don't want to bore people by looking at these logs, but effectively this is what you're going to be doing is if something's failed, you probably want to look at the log files and find out the actual the error. Maybe it was one of the other failures. But some of the Juno boards or the Juno infrastructure has got a few intermittent failures that can occur. But what you can do if you want to check, you can check those things and then do a rebuild at this stage. And you can do a run just of those ones. So you're not running the whole loads of jobs again, just these few ones. And if you do that and they pass, it's probably an intermittent failure, and you can feel a bit more comfortable, especially for decisions that you want to make based on the CI, whether it's a patch review that you want to submit the patch. If these intermittent failures are cleared on a rerun, and it looks really like an infrastructure issue, you can click the verified flag and get the patch submitted. Or if it is really something that's there and then it doesn't go away, then of course it's giving you a clue of something to look at. All these things can be rebuilt from the whole job. So if you wanted to redo the whole daily, you can do a rebuild at this level. If you see if I can find the one. I think it was this Juno one I was looking at. There we go. There is an error there. It was a known infrastructure issue. So the point being is, when you get messages like that, my patch or it's not a problem with the repository. There is some issues that are going on with the infrastructure, and this always happens. I mean, if everybody assumed that a CI system always runs perfectly, unfortunately, given the complexity, sometimes these issues do appear. But I know I've run some of these again and rerun them, and they disappeared and didn't come back for a while. So occasionally these failures happen. So that was the. Use my tabs here. Oops. Yeah, so that gives you an idea of the interface from Jenkins. Now, I did also want to talk about, let's just look at this tool here. If you were in a patch and you happen to want to run the CI, so that's what will be the traditional day-to-day use case of many of you who are submitting patches. So you don't have to wait around for the likes of other people to kick the CI for you. They will if it's not being run, because as probably many of you know, you do need this one. This one's actually been merged, but you do need code owner reviews, maintainer review, and a verified before you can actually get a patch to be submitted. That can be done, as I said, through the allow CI. So basically you do a reply and you can kick off with the +1 or +2. And when you do that, that will set off a run. And as I said, so the runs are being set off here. There we go. I think it is the build started. And that will take you to the remember I said there was the L1 and L2 jobs. So that's showing you for this particular results that in this particular case, all the tests run and passed okay. And that would have set the verified flag for you. If you find an intermittent issue, you can override the verified flag, but the likelihood is the code owner and maintainer will be sort of checking for these things, that if the CI hasn't been run, they'll probably question, well, why hasn't it been run, or why has it been overridden? But just normal patch review sort of type discussions, as what we're trying to do is ensure that the patches and the changes are being good enough to go back into the integration branch. And then this patch went back, and if everything passed in the integration branch overnight, from the daily, then we can do a master catch up and get the master up to date with that change, rather than it just sitting in the integration branch. So I think that was probably most of the things I wanted to sort of show people in case people were unsure where to go. There is now, as I said, the documentation. So that's what I was going to look at. So this is a copy of that I sent everybody, 44 pages. I happen to be on the page that shows some of the CI flow, the various Jenkins jobs. I'm not going to describe it all here, but it's documented, and you can go through it and find out more details if that is of interest to you. I think there's various information about how the pipeline works, and submitting patches, what Lava is, and so forth. As I said, it's for TFA, it's primarily the Juno board, but TFM has got various other boards that it makes use of. Hopefully we'll add in more boards into the Lava farm eventually, as part of the roadmap of what's work ongoing. And if you become members, trustedfirmware.org, hopefully you can submit your boards to be included. I did mention that all this is open source, so if you really don't want to join TFA, trustedfirmware.org, you can take a copy and set up all this environment yourself, but which you may want to do regardless of whether you join or not, because it's something useful to have in your system, or sorry, in your company. But if you want your patches to be, your boards and your things to be tested on platforms that you're really interested in, then of course joining trustedfirmware.org and getting your platform integrated, allows it to be tested on a daily basis, as well as all the patches as they're submitted. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to cover off the top of my head. I don't know, Don or any of the Linaro guys, have I missed any major pieces that you think I should have told the membership about? Not hearing anything, so I guess
I don't think so. There is a lot of other supporting documentation, and like you mentioned, I'm in the process of wanting to get some of that on the website so that it can be found easier, but there's quite a bit additional documentation on Lava itself and other components of the open source that were, repos and such that are used to build this out. So yeah, this is very specific to just the OpenCI, but there's also a lot of supporting documentation around the components that build OpenCI. So I'm hoping to get some updates out there for everybody to be able to leverage that as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Will it be any good if the link to those documentation be kept somewhere in read the docs? Trusted format?
Yes, so right now, this document you're looking at on Joanna's screen, I am almost done porting that into my own GitHub so that it can be supported by Read the Docs. And then you all, if you find problems, could just update those through a pull request, or, you know, if you see something that's worth adding. This is a community, I want to make this a community document that we all own. So that's in process. And again, we could also have pointers to things like the lava documentation, which is a huge document set just in itself that's not really referenced directly in here. So did that answer your question?
Yes.
Any other questions from anybody? I know some of you have been using it because I've seen, you know, when I've sort of browsed on some of the open patches that some of you have been, you know, kicking off the allow CI. As I said, the goal of all this effort is to drive the TFA changes through the OpenCI, and we can, you know, that is the state we are at today. The ARM CI will just be used just to do a bit of additional testing that's currently missing. But as you probably could see there, there's an awful lot of testing already available. I appreciate some, you know, that like yourself, Aaron, you know, you would find more value if your board was part of the farm, but hopefully now you know how that can be achieved. And any other partner who wishes to or contributor who wishes to do that. All right, is there any other subjects anybody wants to talk about from an OpenCI? Otherwise, we can do a brief look at the trusted firmware mailing list to see if there's anything there anybody wants to follow up on. Not seeing anybody interested to follow up, you know, live on any of the sort of threads that have been going on. I'm not going to specify anything in particular, but it's an opportunity. We've got a few minutes, I think. There's not much in April, of course. But,
yeah, does anybody, I don't see, you know, the Hob thing. I think, yeah, there's a bunch of emails going around, right? I saw Manish's response this morning, right, to the Hob email. Yeah, maybe we can discuss that. You know, is Manish there, Julius, and
I know Manish is there. I think it was I can click on what this. I mean, that's the response Manish did this morning. Maybe I hand over to you, Manish, if you want to give an update, because I believe there was a meeting earlier today.
Yes. So my reply was basically around using a dynamic information, which is which earlier boot stage gets by probing any device, for example, memory, and then passing it on through to the next boot stages. So this was mainly targeted towards dynamic information, but the meeting today was also about passing static information, which is generally part of device trays, and how to pass that information from one boot stage to another boot stage. So the conclusion of today's meeting was to come up with a unified way of responsibility of different bootloader stages. What should be populated by which bootloader stage, and the format. So the discussion was still in the very initial stage, and the target is to come up with a standard way which can be replicated towards replicated in all the software projects like U-boot or TFA or UFI or whatever. So basically there are two kind of information. One is the dynamic one, and the other one is static. And then for dynamic, we have to come to a consensus of using either hob or blob list from U-boot or already existing tag list, which Julius has mentioned in TFA. So that's for dynamic one. And for static one, should we use the existing device tree format of passing one device, passing the base address of a device tree from TFA to U-boot, or leveraging the fconf feature. So these are the two possible. These are the possible scenarios.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think okay. That sounds like. Yeah, I think the ultimate point was there needs to be something standard that can be used across ARM platforms, right? And I don't know. There are quite a few. One of the points I want to make is there are different market segments, right? ARM is not just embedded anymore, and a lot of it, a lot of different markets have to be standards based. So there's no one size fits all solution that can work everywhere, right? So, and I understand we don't want to add too many options due to maintenance burdens and things like that, but yeah, we need to give the ability for different market segments to make that choice, right? And yeah, if it's blob list, it's fine, but so long as we ultimately want to not have like proprietary or forks of ARM trusted firmware or anything else, right? So providing options is one way. There is an increased maintenance burden, but hopefully with things like OpenCI and the project becoming more open and having more maintainers, hopefully it scales with the project, right? And whether it's blob list or hob list, I think is sort of an implementation detail, but yeah, I think I just wanted to make a general point that yeah,
so historically, so far, maybe till last year or before that, we were more considered that TF project and device tree thing are more towards client space. But once infrastructure thing is there, which is highly configurable, we need input from the guys from infrastructure side also. So I was talking to one of the ETG guys in ARM, and they are from infrastructure, and probably they will also come up with something. So yes, it's very initial stage. We and as you said, we can't make a single solution for each, but we will try to consolidate as much as we can, so that
completely understand.
Yes, there will not be much divergence.
Yeah, and there's also uptick in use of UFI, right? So hob is useful, for I guess if I put my blinders on, hob is useful from a UFI platform perspective, right? Because they use UFI, so going from TFA to UFI and using handoff blobs will just make things really easy. But yeah, I know there are other
but the problem
boot and code boot and other.
Yeah, the problem with hob in UFI is it's quite dynamic in a sense that it keeps on changing. So whenever there is a update in UFI spec about a hob, then that has to be replicated in TFA as well. So this will create a lot of maintenance burden on TFA as well.
So it's not so much change as extension. They're adding more new UUIDs and things like that, right? It's not necessary that you have to extend it. I don't think. But are you saying they change the structure itself of the hobs? I don't believe that is the case, right?
I'm not sure.
If it is adding new okay.
Go ahead.
If it is adding new UUIDs, then yeah, that's just an extension of an existing framework, right? I think that happens everywhere, and that's inevitable anywhere, right? But if they're changing the hob structures itself, then yeah, I take your point.
Yeah, I'm not very much aware of UFI, but I just came to know from somebody that it's a valid scenario where UFI structure itself gets changed over the time.
But I guess
Okay. Yeah, I'm sure that.
Regardless of the hub itself, right? That's one example. I take your point that the TFA is expanding into different segments, right? So infra, embedded, automotive as well, client is the traditional one. So one way of looking at it is that there could be some profiles, but not changing much the behavior of the core packages, but more from a platform profiling point of view, right? So we were discussing there could be some platform generic code which is reused by infra platforms, which will never be used by client platforms, right? And managing a hub type of structure could be one of those. And that could be a way to, move the project into a direction where we recognize different segment specific things, but the core packages are still there, right? PSCI is one. You don't want a PSCI or a RAS framework for different segments, possibly.
Yep.
So that,
yeah, totally agree with that. If it,
go ahead.
Ultimately, it needs to be upstream, right? Ultimately, whatever the solution is, we want it to be upstream, right? We don't want platform-specific implementations or forking and having proprietary, or fragmented implementations, right? So yeah, if it's in platform-specific things and it is upstream, yeah, that totally works too.
I think it's important that, as the TFA project, we look to enable the partners and the different contributors and the different segments to make use of TFA through, common things where we can, common enablements, and then let the partners and the platforms decide their full solutions. It's not our role to decide some of these things, it's the solutions, but we as the TFA project need to see what we can do to enable them and have them as open source enablements, but try to balance that against the worry of about sort of too much maintenance overhead for too much, too many solutions, too many different cases.
Yep, I agree. Yeah, I think I'm generally okay with Manish's response, and yeah, thanks for updating on what you guys discussed this morning.
That was a trusted substrate call, I think, another project run by Linaro. I don't know if their meetings are recorded at all, but maybe if they are,
it's recorded, and Frankia is going to send it across.
Right.
It has just been sent eventually.
All right. Well, that's good. Well, that means everyone who couldn't quite make it due to time zones and can watch it, and then we got the mailing list, so we can follow up on these things.
Can someone give a 30-second summary of what happened in that meeting?
Yes. Let me rephrase. So there are two set of information which can be passed from one bootloader stage to another bootloader stage. One is statically defined in device trees, and the other one is dynamically generated while initializing a device. So for a static case, we are discussing two possible options. One is from ST, where the device tree in one boot stage can be dynamically there can be new entries added into device tree at runtime. So that's one possible solution. The other possible solution in the static case is leveraging the fconf feature and improving its capability to solve the requirement. And for the dynamic case where the information is not statically kept in device tree, but it is generated at runtime, like memory configuration and memory speed and all those kind of things. That can be passed either using existing tag list in TFA or blob list in U-boot or hob list in UFI, or maybe combination of both. And these two solutions can coexist in the system. So the dynamic and the static one both can coexist in a given system. And that's a possibility.
Okay. Oh, that's an interesting summary. Thanks, Manish.
Still not concluded, so we still
Yeah, I'm sure there will be further discussions on lists.
Yes.
Among those people.
And I guess the audience was not much in the meeting, so probably people, once they start digesting it, they will come up with new ideas or new information.
Was Harb in the meeting from Ampere?
No, he was not there. So that's why, I mean, we were not discussing the exact. So the Harb was more interested in dynamic bit of information.
Mm-hmm.
And the meeting was discussing basically both of them, the static as well as dynamic one, and the more focus was towards the static. So I think if Harb would have been there, the discussion would have been different.
Oh yeah,
I'm
sure about that. Okay, thanks, Manish.
So I'm just showing on the screen, like Olivia said, Francois has just posted a link to the recording. So the TFA mailing list, if you follow the thread, you should be able to find this if you want to rewatch that particular meeting. All right, we're more or less at time. Thank you, everybody. I hope it was useful learning a bit more about the CI and knowing that it's available. And yes, thank you, everybody. And I let everybody go.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.